Hello, I'm Helen Bradley. Welcome to this video tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a simple icon using text and shapes. Now we're doing this not because you want this particular icon, but because there's lots of handy techniques that we're going to be looking at. This is the logo that we're going to be creating in this video, and it involves three techniques of interest. One is for creating these evenly spaced bars down this side of the image. The other one is for creating this trapezoid out of a rectangle, and there's a tool that we use to do that if you're not familiar with, you may find it handy to get to know. And the last thing is how to get this W to warp. This is just a regular piece of text that I have warped so it looks just like this. So there are three very smart skills here that I'm going to show you in creating this very simple icon in Illustrator. To get started with our logo, the first thing I'm going to do is I've just imported a JPEG version of the logo that I created originally that we're going to recreate. You can just grab a version of an image if you want to use one as a reference and just choose File, Place. Then you can go and select the image and place it in here. It just adds it to a layer so that you can work with it on the screen. Just makes it a little handy for you to be able to work with it visible. Just added a new layer to my image. I'm just working with a 500 by 500 pixel artboard, but it really doesn't matter since this is vector drawing how big your artboard is. Now I'm going to click on the eyedropper here because I want to sample this color because I want to use this color in my illustration. So the first thing that we're going to do is to draw this blue background. So I'm going to get the rectangle tool and hold down the Shift key as I just draw out a filled blue rectangle. Then we want this white piece here. So I'm going to click away from the selection here so I can now pick up white as my fill color and now go back to the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw out this rectangle. So it's going to sit behind the other one so it can be quite large. I'm going to move it once I've created it, just move it up a little bit. So there's this rectangle, and let's put in the lines. Now the lines, I'm just using the line segment tool. Again, I'm going to click away from this so nothing is selected. I'm going to go and resample this color and then flick it to make it the stroke color because I'm using a line. So I'm just going to click on the line tool and I'm going to shift drag because that creates a horizontal line. And I want to increase the stroke width. And let's just click away and see what we've got. Well, that's a pretty good line for this purpose. So I'm going to select it, and to get these series of lines, I'm going to use the Effect option. So I'm choosing Effect, Distort and Transform, and then Transform. So what I want is a series of lines. I'll click to turn the preview on so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to bump the copies up to about 5, so that'll mean I'll have an original and 5 copies in just a minute. And now I'm going to adjust the vertical. Now I'm not sure whether I'm going up or down, but that doesn't matter because just drag one way, and if it's the wrong way, then go the other way. And presumably down was a better option for me. So I'm just going to click in the number of pixels and just increase the number until I get a good set of lines. Now if I want this sort of spacing but more lines, then I'm just going to increase my copies. So I've just increased my copies to 6 and everything's looking pretty good there. So I'll click OK. So all of that's now done. Now I had added a layer to my image to put all this content on. I'm going to put this word icon thing here on the next layer just to keep it separate. So I'm going to click on that layer and now I can lock everything else down so it's not going to move even though I'm going to be working right on top of it. So I want this rectangle here. Well, it's actually a trapezoid, and I'm going to start with a filled white rectangle. So I'm going to the rectangle tool. I'm going to select white. I'm going to turn, actually no, I'm going to leave my stroke color because I actually do want a stroke on this. I'm just going to draw out my white filled rectangle to start off with. Okay, so this is my rectangle and it's got that stroke around it, which is really what I'm going to need in a minute when I just click away. I need it for this line here, so we did need a stroke. The problem is that this is a rectangle and we want this trapezoid. Well, there's a trick to getting it. It's a really neat little trick. What I'm going to do is go to the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to select over the 2 points on this side of the rectangle. And now I'm going over here and I'm going to grab the scale tool because I want to increase the scale of this. So now I'm just going to click and drag, and see that when I use the scale tool with only 2 points selected, we're actually creating our trapezoid. Nice and easy when you know how, really, really difficult if you don't. So there's our trapezoid, and I'm going to lock that down too because I want to go to the letter W because that's exciting too, because it's got some interesting effects to get it to look this shape. It's going to be easier if I work on a separate layer when I'm working on it. So now we're going to the text tool, and I have Myriad Pro regular selected, and I'm just going to type the letter W. So I'm clicking here, uppercase W. I'm going back to select that, and I'm going to make it really, really big. I'm thinking probably about 120 points is a good start. Well, you know, that's pretty good as a finish as well as a start. So let's just move it into position here. We want to color it this blue color. So I'm going to go get my eyedropper and I'm just going to sample this color so that now we've got a blue W. I think it's a little bit thin for what I want, so I'm going to make sure that I have the text object selected, and instead of regular I'm going to choose semi-bold. Well, let's make sure I've actually got it selected because I don't think it is. Let's try semi-bold again. Okay, so that's giving me a sort of more thick W, and I think that's good for my icon. So I'm just going to size it to suit. Now what we need to do is to make it this shape. Well, we do that using an envelope warp. So the first thing that we have to do is make this shape. So I'm going to go to the rectangle tool just out here. I'm just going to drag out a rectangle. And then I'm going to adjust its corners. I want to drag up on this corner here. So I'm just going to go with the direct selection tool, hold down the shift key. So I'm going straight up. In this sort of line, I want a line that looks just like that. And you can see that the bottom of this is a little bit angled too. So I'm going to again click on the direct selection tool here, click on this node here at the bottom of this shape, and again with shift I'm going to just drag it up a little bit. Now it doesn't go up quite as much as the other one did, so we want that sort of shape. And now I'm just going to size it down so it's roughly the size of my W, a little bit bigger but roughly the size of it. So let's just bring it down in size. Okay. Now let's go and get our W. So I'm just going to take my W and I'm going to drop it over the top of this shape. Now you can't really see the W because it's underneath this rectangle. So if I make the rectangle a rectangle that only has a stroke on it, you'll see the W through it. But just be aware that this rectangle has to be on top of the letter W. So we're going to select both. You can do that here in the layers palette, or you can just drag over both. And then you'll choose Object, Envelope, Distort, Make with Top Object. And what we're saying to Illustrator is go and take the bottom shape and just warp it to be the same look and same shape as the top object. So I'm going to click Make with Top Object. And here's our letter W. Now it's too big, but you know that's a small problem to solve. We're just going to make it a bit smaller and drag it into position here. And there is our word icon. Now if it's too big, again, it's just going to scale down. We just hold the shift key if you want to scale it in proportion, or you can just drag on any one of the handles to resize it. So there's our word icon. If I were going ahead now to put it on the web, the first thing I would do is to get rid of this one here. So I'm just going to go and get rid of my picture by dragging and dropping it onto the trash can. Then I'm going to unlock everything and I'm going to select everything. Oh, just unlock everything. I'm going to select over everything. Now what I want to do is make my artboard this size. So there's a trick. If you've got your artwork selected, double click on the artboard tool. You get the artboard dialog open. So if you go to the preset list, fit to selected art. So I'm going to click that and click OK. And now my artboard is exactly the same size as my art. Really nice, handy little trick there. And then you want to click away on another tool because you want to stop working with the artboard. Otherwise, as soon as you start moving anything, your artboard's going to go west on you. So if we want this for the web, we'll go File, Save for Web. This is going to default to JPEG or one of the web formats. I'm using JPEG, so I'm just going to select JPEG. There's no point here in using ping because I don't really have anything with transparency. I can set the height and width of my icon. So for example, if I want 125 pixel square icon, that's what I've got here, and I'm just going to click Save, and that will then save that as a JPEG image all ready for the web. Now I'm not going to do that because I already have my icon. So there's how to create the simple icon in Illustrator, and you learned two new tricks this time. One of them is how to reshape this square or this rectangle into a trapezoid, and the other one is how to warp this letter W, still keeping nice straight edges but using the envelope distort feature. I'm Helen Bradley. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. Look out for more video tutorials here on my YouTube channel, and consider subscribing to my channel and you'll be alerted when new videos are released. And visit my website at projectwoman.com, where you'll find more tips, tricks and tutorials on a range of applications including Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator and a whole lot more.